third grade. Are you ready for today's class? Or are you super tired? I hope you're ready to learn. All right, now there are many types of scales. Maybe in your house you have these different types of scales. There's a bathroom scale. You might have a kitchen scale. Or you might have seen a triple beam balance to use in your science classes. Today, we're going to use grams to find the mass of items that are less than 1 kilogram. Now, you might be wondering, hey, what does mass of items mean? Why didn't Mrs. Jones just say weight of items? Why did she use mass of items? Well, I looked it up on Google for you. The mass is the amount of matter or substance that makes up an object. It is measured in units called kilograms, which can be abbreviated as kg. Mass always stays the same, while weight changes with changes in gravity. So my mass will be the same on Earth as it is on the moon because gravity is different on the Earth than on the moon, but with mass, gravity doesn't affect it. However, my weight in pounds will change when I go to the moon because the gravity is different on the moon than on the Earth. Usually in science, we use the term mass. And so that's why in math class, we're going to learn about mass and how to use mass and how to calculate the mass by looking at a scale. All right, let's look at this example. I'm just going to make my video screen a tad bit bigger. Okay, all right. Okay, so now what is the mass of the bunch of grapes? So the grapes were put on top of the scale and look at where the arrow is pointing to. What is it pointing to? The bunch of grapes has a mass of 1 kilogram. But 1 kilogram is how many grams? Do you remember what kilo means? Kilo means 1,000. Can you guess how many grams there are in 1 kilogram? There are 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram. Also, kilogram is abbreviated as lowercase k, lowercase g. Grams is abbreviated as lowercase g. Okay. Now that you know that 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams, look at the scale. I see these markings on my scale. How many grams does each marking represent? So what should we do? Well, let's remind ourselves how many grams are in 1 kilogram. 1 kilogram has 1,000 grams. Okay. Next, we're going to see how many markings are here. Okay. Starting from 0 and ending at 1,000. Okay. So I'm going to look at the equal amount of spaces. It's kind of like a number line, isn't it? Right? If I drew a line smack dab in the middle right here, it'd be kind of like a curved number line. Okay. So if we start at 0 and end at 1,000, how many spaces do you see? Let's see. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I see 10 equal spaces. So from 0 to 1000 with 10 equal spaces, I see if I count by 100 10 times, I'm going to get to 1000. Let's double check. Let's count by 100s together and see. So 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1000. This is also saying, when we go back to the slide here, remember how there were 10 spaces here? And we want to get to 1000. So it's saying 10 groups of what gets you 1000, okay? And notice how many zeros 1000 has. Man, 1000 has 1, 2, 3 zeros. How many zeros does 10 have? 1. Okay, so if you input here 100, right? And do you remember how to multiply digits with trailing zeros? Okay, what we're going to do is, well, first, whenever I multiply by a 10, all I need to do is I look at the number that I'm multiplying 10 with, and I just have to add one more zero at the end. So I have 100. 10 times 100 is, and then I'm going to add my 0 from my 10 is 1000. So this works, okay? All right. Now, let's look at another example. What is the mass of the pencil case? It says of the bunch of pencil case, but it's just the pencil case. So look at where the red arrow is pointing to. It's pointing to 500. So the pencil case has a mass of 500 grams. Now, how many grams does each marking represent? Oh my goodness, from 0 grams all the way to 500 grams, there are so many markings. But not to overwhelm you, let's start with the longer markings, because on this scale, I see there's some longer markings here. And then in between the longer markings, there's these smaller markings here, right? Let's focus on how many longer markings there are, okay? So from 0 to 500, I see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? And if I count by 50s, 10 times, I will get to 500. Let's count together and double check. Ready? So 0, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500. This also means This also means 10 groups of what gets you 500. And if you input in 50 here, whatever you multiply a 10 by, all you need to do is add a 0 at the end of that same digit. So we're adding 1 0 here because we're multiplying by a 10. So 10 groups of what gets you 500? 10 groups of 50 gets you 500 because 10 times 50 is 500. Now that we know how many of the longer, or how much the longer marking represents, what the longer marking represents, now let's examine what the smaller markings represent. So let's look at from 0 to 50. How many spaces are there from 0 to 50? I know it's very hard to see because it's a little bit blurry, but let's see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 equal spaces between 0 to 50. So that means 5 times what gives you 50? Well, this is 10, right? 5 times 10 gives you 50, okay? So let's double check, okay? Let's count by tens and let's see if we get to 50. Ready? 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Hey, that's right. Okay. So each of the markings represents 10 grams. All right, now it's your turn. You know what to do. I'll see you soon. Hi. All right. So you have to find the mass of the pumpkin only over here. And so we're looking at the scale and we're trying to see where this arrow is pointing to. It looks like it's going past 750 grams, but it didn't go past 1 kilogram, right? So what should we do? Okay, well, let's see. This arrow is pointing to kind of like a longer tick mark as opposed to the shorter tick marks, right? So we should figure out how much is each long tick mark. So what should we do? Well, I'm just going to look at 0 through 250 and count how many longer tick marks there are. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 spaces here between 0 to 250. Hey, this sounds familiar. So if there's 5 spaces here, then how much is this space here worth? It's worth 50. Let's count by 50s to make sure it's right. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. Nice. So then this space here is 50. Let's see. So from 750, I'm going to add a 50, right? That's 800. And then I'm going to add another 50 to 800, and that would be 850. 850 grams. Woo! All right. Now, we're going to use kilograms to find the mass of the items that are more than 1 kilogram. All right, let's take a look. What is the mass of the watermelon? Well, let's look at where the arrow is pointing to. It's pointing to 2 kilograms. So the mass of the watermelon is 2 kilograms. What is the mass of the apples? Oh, wait a minute. So it's going past 2 kilograms, and it's not quite at 3 kilograms. It's less than 3 kilograms, but it's more than 2 kilograms. Oh man. Let's see, how many of these tick marks did it go past 2 kilograms? Let's see, how many spaces are here? Let's see, 1, 2, 3 spaces. Okay, so it's 2 kilograms plus these 3 spaces between the small tick marks. So we have to figure out, wait a minute, how much is one space between these tick marks? So what can we do? Well, let's focus between 0 and 1 kilogram. Okay, 1 kilogram, remember, is 1,000 grams. Let's see, how many spaces are in between here when you count? When you count it, there are 10 spaces. Hey, this sounds familiar, right? 10 groups of what gets you 1,000? It was 100. So each space between the tick mark is 100 grams. So let's recall, okay, how many spaces come after the 2 kilograms where the arrow is pointing to? Let's see, 1, 2, 3. 3 spaces. So 3 groups of 100 is 300 grams. So the mass of the apples is 2 kilograms and 300 grams. All right. So now it's your turn. You're going to pause the video and try this on your own. Okay? All right. See you soon. Hi again. All right. Let's look at question 2. It says, what is the mass of the apples? And we have to put both of these answers in grams. Okay? Because the answer, the unit given here is grams. All right. So let's see. I have 500 grams here, but this arrow is, oh, it didn't write a number for us. So it's between 500 and 750 grams. And thankfully it's pointing to a longer tick mark instead of these really teeny tiny tick marks. Okay, so let's count this longer spaces, or the spaces between the longer tick marks between 0 and 250 grams. So then that's actually 5 spaces. Okay. Then I know 5 times 50 is 250. So each of these spaces is 50 grams. How many spaces are there after 500 grams? Well, there's 2. So 500, let's add 50. 550, let's add 50. 600. So the mass of the apples is 600 grams. Let's look here. The mass of the vegetables is, this looks like Chinese cabbage, or is it called Chinese broccoli? I believe it's called bok choy. That's what it looks like to me. So this is not pointing at 1 kilogram, okay, and it's definitely not 2 kilograms. So it's at this tick mark here, okay? So we have to figure out, wait, each space between the tick marks is how many grams? Okay? So we're going to count the spaces between 0 and 1 kilogram. And remember, 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. And if we count the spaces, that there's 10 spaces. Sweet! Because you know, 10 times 100 is 1,000. So each space here is 100. But it doesn't go all the way to 1,000 grams. It stops right here. So let's count by hundreds and stop right here. Ready? 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800. The mass of the vegetables is 800 grams. Ooh, all right. I think you're getting it. Okay. Please do guided practice numbers 4 and 5 and pause the video. I'll see you when you get back. Hi! Alright, let's look here. Now remember, we need to put our answers in grams only, okay? So let's find the weight of, let's find the mass of the pineapple. Okay, so let's see. This arrow is at this tick mark here, right? It's not pointing at a known value that's written on the scale. So we have to figure out, wait, how much is each of these spaces worth between the tick marks, okay? So I'm going to count the number of spaces between 0 and 1,000, and that's actually 10 spaces. And you know, 10 times 100 is 1,000. Oh, you'll never forget that, will you? Because it keeps coming up over and over in our lesson today. And so each of these spaces is 100 grams. So after 3 kilograms, how many of those spaces do we see? We see 1, 2, 3, 4 of those spaces. Okay, and remember, 3 kilograms is the same thing as saying 3,000 grams because there's three groups of 1,000. Okay, so it's 3,000 grams here. And there are four spaces, which is four groups of 100. Four groups of 100 is 400. So 3,000 plus 400 is 3,400 grams. Let's look at this melon. It looks like a watermelon. So it's between 5 and 6 kilograms, okay? And it looks like it comes right here, okay, at this tick mark here where my arrow is, okay? So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 spaces. So that means I have to figure out how much is one of these spaces worth between the tick marks. So when I count from 0 to 1 kilogram, which is 1,000 grams, I see that there's 10 spaces. Hey, so you know each space is worth how many grams? 100 grams. And then remember, 5 kilograms is 5 groups of 1,000 grams, which is 5,000 grams. And then remember, there's 6 spaces here. And so 6 groups of 100 is 600. So the mass of the melon is 5,600 grams. You're awesome. All right. Well, that's all for today. I know you'll miss me, but we'll see each other tomorrow. Well, sort of. In video land, we'll see each other. Okay, bye. Have a good day.